Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 kill team video. Today it's time for another stat show where I go over all the competitive tournament data for kill team based from the Best Coast Pairings tournament app for May, and it's all being compiled by Hot Sauce Teddy. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you think of the stats and all the trends it shows and just your general opinions of it. And if you want, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But without further ado, let's get on with the stats. So yeah, as I said, for today, we're going over the stats for, well, May, because I'm just going to do it monthly now, and Kill Team is getting enough support that, well, I can do monthly tournament stats shows. But once again, thanks goes to Hot Sauce Teddy. He's the one who compiles it all for me and goes through and presents it in an actual readable way. And as always, we've implemented stuff that people have asked for to try and get a more concise picture of the stats, because it's really interesting to look at. Before we get into things, I'll describe the pitfalls of the stats. As always, they're all from Best Coast Pairings. You know, nothing really yet from outside sources, but as always, if you want to email us your results from tournaments not using BCP, you can just do that and we'll be happy to use those. Also, we have the issue of BCP with people using the wrong factions, although I do have to say now BCP have done a really good job of updating the factions immediately, as we've already got Blooded and Phobos Strike Team added to the app, which is great. Although we now also have Warhammer Underworld's factions, which is, unless GW are going to stealth combine the games, is probably not intended. And then another factor people wanted me to bring up is terrain, because, you know, some people play with lots of heavy, people play more sparse, some people don't use like the GW terrain, they use like the ITC kind of terrain, but you can't really reflect that in the stats, even though it does change it. So all that does is when we come to tournaments, if we're doing in-depth reviews, might just mention like, oh, this tournament is using ITC terrain, this tournament is using Warhammer World level terrain, this tournament is using standard terrain, stuff like that. But yeah, let's get into the stats and see how everything's going on. As always, for the stat show, I've decided, you know, it's just better to be impartial. I'll leave stuff like balance and what for another video. It's just looking at the stats and seeing what we can do. I'll try not to be overly long. That was one complaint I had. You know, 25 minutes was too long, but 20 minutes is fine. And, you know, I won't make any crazy statements like, you know, tabletop simulator results don't really matter. But let's get on with the video. All right, kicking things off, we have the May 2022 stats. So what we've done is, once again, thanks to Hot Sauce Teddy, we've ranked kill teams with the best win rate to the lowest. We've also included event victories, so how many of those kill teams won events, and how many of those kill teams went undefeated. We've also included how they've done month by month. So as you can see on this column here, month 4 is April, May, and then we've also got some June results, although the June results aren't really accurate because they're only like a week or two old. But we've just included that for comparison to show how the stats are changing on a month by month basis, as well as how they're doing overall. So at the moment, Blooded Guardsmen, technically the best kill team in the game, because they managed to sneak in to a tournament in May, where they got in 3 games with a single player, 2 wins and a loss, so 67%. Then we've got Hive Cult, which are compendium, GSC, so 5 games with 3 wins and 2 losses, 60%. Obviously, these results should be ignored. We've just included them because they're there. And generally, you want a higher representation rate. Like they've got 0.17 and 0.29. It's fine. So, coming to the more important stats, at the top, still Void Dancer Troop, you know, 38 players, 150 games, 86 wins, 62 losses with 2 draws, 57% win rate. So they're still the best performing kill team. They're no longer at 70% like they were in April. They've dropped quite a bit, but they're still doing really well. They've won 6 tournaments, which is the second highest tournaments wins for April in the game. And they also have a really high undefeated rate at 5. So they're actually still doing really, really well, even though their overall win rate has dropped. And their usage has dropped a little bit, but they're still super popular. So as we said, you know, we're aiming for 55 to 45% for win rate. So anything over 55 to 60 is worrying, and over 60 is bad. So they've gotten better. So as in, like, it's still above like outside of a good range, but it's not. It's better. So maybe people are learning how to play to beat them. But the interesting thing is, as I said, they've got the second highest tournament wins. Next, we've got Voids to Guard Corsairs, who have had a much better overall performance, partly because they finally have a faction name. So from 21 players and 76 games, they've got 43 wins and 29 losses, with another 57% win rate, 1 event win and 4 undefeated. So they've jumped up quite a bit, quite considerably. They are on the same win level as Harlequins, and their meta representation has jumped up, but they are playing 50% less games than the Harlequins, but it's still really good. Novitiates have actually gone up 1%. So they've won 3 tournaments, undefeated 3 times, 116 games. So there was actually a really interesting thing, which I'll go into the month by month thing. But at one point, the Harlequins were at 63% in June, and Novitiates were at 60%. And then it seems after that was made public, more people jumped onto them, and they actually brought their win rate down to 56, but still really, really good. And they're quite a popular faction as well. Then we've got Deathwatch with 13 games. You know, they're on a 54% win rate. No event wins or undefeated. And it's still a good win rate. It's just kind of questionable with the meta representation. Then we've got Veteran Guardsmen with 140 players. So they've got 54% win rate. So they've climbed up. And they've got the most tournament wins. They've won 7 tournaments in May with 8 players going undefeated. So they have climbed up to actually be, you know, even though their win rate isn't the highest, it's still really good. They're actually the best performing kill team for May, winning the most tournaments with the most undefeateds. So really good for the Veteran Guardsmen after they had quite a dip in April. Then we've got Legionary, who are now the most popular kill team in the game. They have 180 players for May with a 52% win rate. So they are now above 45. They've won 4 tournaments with 5 undefeated. So that's really, really good. They're doing exceedingly well and are now the most popular kill team in the game, which is not surprising because they are Marines, and a lot of people are proxying their Imperial Marines as Chaos, which is heresy, but there we are. Then you've got Pathfinders, 142 games with a 51% win rate. They've won 4 tournaments and gone undefeated 5 times. So Pathfinders, their win rate has actually gone a little bit worse, but they've won more tournaments. So still really good. And then you've got Wormblade, 123 players, 51%. Won 1 event, undefeated 5 times. Still really good. And that's pretty healthy. Then you've got Craft Worlds. They've oddly... So I don't know if it's pure Craft Worlds or some people have put Corsairs in, so it's a bit dubious, but they've won 2 events and gone undefeated 3 times. And then skipping... Oh, wait, where are we? Where are Commandos? Yeah, Commandos have dropped quite a bit to 42%. They've still got a huge representation rate with 149 games and 8.62% meta representation, but they've won 1 tournament and gone undefeated twice. But then the good news is actually for the Hunter Clade. So in May, they've had 52 games, which is more than April, like 2 times as much. And they have a win rate of 40%, which isn't great, but it's much better than 25%. So they've actually had a marked improvement. So it's not all bad. And then as we look by month, technically we have Phobos Strike Team. Like, there's a little preview for June, but it's... Yeah, currently Phobos Strike Team are undefeated, but it's only from 3 games. Harlequins, as we said, 70%, 57%, currently at 55, but I think this is on like the first week of June, so we've missed results from we haven't had results in from like UK Games Expo and stuff where Harlequins came 1st, 3rd, 6th and 10th, and I know they've won a lot of other tournaments in Europe as well. Then we've got Hive Cult, which I think we forgot to do or didn't have any entrants in for April, so that's 60%, but as I said, that's only like 4 players. Novitiates are actually holding ground, 56, but they did spike up and then averaged out again, and at the moment at 50. Pathfinders, 56, 52s, as I said, they've gone down a bit. Then Legionary, gone up from 48 to 52, and Corsairs are doing much better at 45 to 57. Wormblade are kind of static. Vet Guard are doing much better, 47 to 54. Warp Coven have sadly dropped a bit, going from 56 to 39% in May. And then let's go down to Commandos, who have stayed the same. And then we've got Hunterclade, as I said, 25%, 40. Much better, but still needs some help. And here we can see the number of players. So it's 472 players, so a little bit down from April. April we had just over 500, still very good. And it's from 1,700 games, which is just about the same. So still good sample coverage. So here is how the win rate for May looks, excluding mirrors, and with the meta representation showing how popular they are. So ignore Blooded and Hive Cult. We just put them there because they're there. So excluding mirror matches, Harlequins and Corsairs are at 57. Harlequins slightly better, so it's like 57.5 effectively. Then Novitiates are at 56, so up a bit excluding the mirror matches. Then it's pretty much unchanged, really. Well, we'll double check Commandos. Yeah, Commandos. Yeah, because oddly, last month, Commandos, when we removed their mirror matches, did a lot better. But overall, pretty much unchanged, which is a good sign. And then as for meta representation, obviously, most popular faction is the Legionary kill team, so the Chaos Space Marines. Then we've got Harlequins, then Commandos, then Pathfinders, and then Vet Guard. So Vet Guard have actually lost a bit of their player base, but they've gone up in their win rate. So it's interesting to see if we could have found out where those players went. But otherwise, it's a healthy representation. Hunterclade are actually getting more popular, but I don't know if those people just like being punished or they're on a mission. Either way, I always applaud Hunterclade players. They're great to see. Now here is our matchup win rates matrix. So this is showing how much a kill team is winning against another kill team. As I said, the stronger color shows more games, but in the next slide, we'll show how many games there's actually been. As I said, I'll look at the Harlequins first. So they've got a 100% win rate against Cadre Mercenary, but interestingly, their Corsair win rate has dropped to 40%. They can't beat Craftworld, lost all their Craftworlds for May. Death Guard, they've got a 63%. And let me see. Yes, so Legionary, they've actually dropped to 47%. And then Pathfinders, they've dropped dramatically to 27%. Even Vet Guard, which was a positive win rate, is 43%. So interestingly, the kill teams, because in April, Void Dancer Troop were doing much better against what everyone suspected their bad matchups were. But in May, their bad matchups have now gained ground. So this could be a combination of people learning the matchup more, or more people flocking. But it's interesting to see how that's transitioned. Then they've still got a lot of 100% win rates, which isn't great. But, you know, they've got a 69% win rate against Commandos, which is nice. But we'll look at Novitiates as well. So they've got a 43% win rate against Corsairs, a 43% win rate against the Void Dancer Troop, and then a 45% win rate against Pathfinders, and 47% against Wormblade. They've still got a few 100%ers, but you know, they're losing to interesting factions, and even then they're losing not too badly. Like the interesting one is, let's see, they've got a 63% against Legionary, which is really good as well. And we'll look at Legionary just because they're the most popular faction at the moment. So, you know, they're actually doing better against Corsairs, 57%. Not doing so well against Craftworld with 25%, but you know, that's still a confusing matchup because of how BCP has entered. They're still doing pretty well against... Oh, sorry, they've only got a 25% win rate against Novitiates, which is... They've actually lost ground against Pathfinders and Vet Guard because in May they had about 50 to 60% win rates against Pathfinders and Vet Guards. So we're actually starting to see the bad matchups normalize compared to the month before. So it's very interesting. And here's what the stats look like with the volumes of games. So you said there's a lot of ones here, but we're getting lots of games where there's now like, you know, let's go with, Legionary with Pathfinders. That's 19 games, so that's a very reliable statistic for their matchup. And the same with Vet Guard, 16. You know, so we're actually getting a lot of representation. It's mainly the compendium teams that only have like ones and stuff. But overall, it's very interesting as we've got, you know, just good data for this. It's actually, as I said, something implemented from people requesting to see. So really good data. Then we've got Percentage of games versus percentage of undefeateds. So in May, in April, sorry, we had the Harlequins shining down over everyone. Now it's the Veteran Guard. They've climbed back up. They outnumber everyone, and now they outnumber people in terms of undefeated, shining down their Emperor's glory upon everyone. Oddly, Harlequins and Pathfinders and Wormblades and Legionary all sitting about the same, with Legionary doing quite well because, they have a lot of players. And then, Commando's still about the same. It's just an interesting statistic to see how many teams are actually going undefeated. And at the moment, Vet Guard are doing the best. So this is a bit more of a crazy statistic, but it's just showing how the best spoken White Dwarf teams are doing week by week. So we're not including compendiums for this one. So, we've got Warp Coven, who are spiking and then have dropped down there, and they've gone back up to about 55% win rate. Not doing too badly. It's a bit spiky. Then you've got Novitiates, who I said were doing really badly, then really well, then not so well, and then they started peaking here, and then they've leveled out. So, as you said, there's a lot of zigzagging throughout the month, but compared to the end of last month, everyone's pretty much normalized. The only kill teams that aren't doing so hot right now are Corsairs, who have had a sudden spike of drops in the last week of May, and also Legionary. Who is that? Legionary? No, sorry. It's a mix of the Phobos Strike team and Hunterclade. So it's not exactly clear, but it gives you a good idea of how games are actually progressing week by week. And I pay attention to the stats weekly, and you do have big spikes and lows, but it's a good sign that everyone's pretty much normalizing. That's a very healthy sign. And here's just a quick preview of how the overall stats are doing at the moment. So this is updated as of Monday. So this is the rolling overall stats for the game. So as I said, Phobos are at 100%. Then we've got Void Dancer troops at 62% overall, with a 9% meta representation. So they're about third or tied for third for most popular kill teams. So these are all the stats from the beginning of quarter 2 to where we are now. And we're effectively almost at the end of quarter 2. But, for May, everyone was about, most of the best spoke teams were about a 55%, 57% win rate, which was really good. And this is just how it's looking overall. So as I said, Harlequin's doing the best. Then you've got Novitiates, Pathfinders, Legionary and Corsairs, and even Wormblade and Vet Guard all sitting about the same, which is really, really good. And even Warp Coven's doing pretty well there. Hunterclade are doing a lot better. As I said, they're at 37% now, so there is hope. Don't worry, but they still need some buff. Just because they're doing slightly better doesn't mean they don't need any help. But that's just how the stats are looking overall currently, and that's from 1,700 games. So now I'll just go over the brief findings of the data. So, as we saw, April didn't look too good. May's actually a lot better in terms of everyone being quite close balanced. And June is being very interesting. We've had a few tournaments where, there's been certain faction I was expected to win doing really well. And, we've had the UK Games Expo. We've got another Warhammer World Tournament this week. We've had 2 American ones. We've had the Seattle Open, I think, or... and then another ACO from America and a lot of Spanish events. So it's really neat how much games we're getting. But so far, meta looks a bit healthier, and the win rates are evening out more. As I said, the highest performing kill team is Vet Guard, doing really well with 8 event wins, 5 event wins, no, 7, with 7 event wins, and then you've got Void Dancer Troop on 6. So if you were looking at the stats going, I want to make an idea of which kill team I want to go to take and win a tournament with, I'd highly recommend Vet Guard and Void Dancer Troops, just because they're both strong kill teams, and as the stats are showing, both of those kill teams are doing really, really well, especially Vet Guard, which isn't too surprising. It's just their overall win rate has dropped, partly due to players jumping to other factions, and, that's probably the main thing. They haven't really had any balance changes. They kind of had more people flood to them than their win rate dropped. More people have left their kill team, and now the win rate's gone up. So that's a very perplexing but fun statistic. And then we also have Legionary and Pathfinders doing really well, with both having 4 event wins with really good representation rates, especially for the Legionary. And Legionary are just getting really good results overall, with their now being the most popular kill team. So it's going to be interesting to see how that interacts with the Phobos Marines. But overall, everything's looking pretty good for me. So it's just going to see how that develops for June. And then, as you saw, overall, like, Void Dancer troops still have the highest results overall. But the game's pretty healthy, and like I've been discussing with other people, and we feel like the game's pretty healthy apart from like 2 to 3 factions. And it's just like, the other thing is grenade spam, but that's more of a general thing than any specific kill team. Overall, everything's looking really cool. It's just going to be interesting to see how it evolves for June, and then by the end of June, hopefully we'll get a balanced data slate, and then I can close off and do a full Q2 review. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the video and the stats. How are you happy with things shaping out? And what would you like to see? Are you happy with what we're showing off with the stats? And what else would you like to see? Also, please remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support and feedback. And before I go further, I would just like to thank my patrons for giving me all that support. So for my Adepts of the Crit, I have Adzik, Christopher, Kenzie, Tarun, and Zamariu. And then for my Veterans of the Crit, I have Confucius and Samja. So thank you for your support. Really helps me, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the stats. Once again, all thanks to Hot Sauce Teddy. So if you see him like on my Discord or whatever, always give him thanks. It's all thanks to him. Also, the Honest Wargamer stats show people for just helping guide us. But that's pretty much it. So I'll be back soon with more content. As I said, if you're watching this week, I'll be at Warhammer World over the weekend, so come and say hi if you can. And yeah, we'll be back with more stats, well, in about 3 weeks. Hopefully we've got a balanced data slate coming soon, but really interested to see how things go on, and hopefully I wasn't too overly long this time. And remember, no matter what the stats say, you can always roll a crit.